A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 162nd episode of Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Almost 2 years ago, in April 2020, when the pandemic had just set in and schools had closed down, we at Notebook felt it was our duty to set up a platform for educators to connect meaningfully on, discussing problems they were facing with the rising need of online education and learning and arrive at common solutions. Today, 162 episodes later, this platform has grown much bigger than we had anticipated, all thanks to your love and support. We have discussed extremely curricular topics here like NEP and assessments, extracurricular topics like sports and theatre, topics like school finance, and even evolved topics like mental health. Back in 2017, when Achin Bhattacharyya, our founder and CEO, decided to use mobile technology to aid online learning, digital education was still largely being considered a thing of the future. Across conferences, we were discussing artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other topics as distant future truths in the education ecosystem. However, today in 2022, when we look around us, digital education is the present reality. The pandemic has helped digital education leapfrog its adoption curve to become something that every teacher and student today accepts as a part of their everyday existence. In 1965, Gordon E. Moore, the co-founder of Intel, came up with the Moore's Law. The law, simply put, states that technology, particularly processing power, doubles itself every 1.8 years. When we juxtapose this law to where we see digital education today, we find ourselves asking, what next? What does the future hold for online and digital education? What will learning look like in 10, 20, 30 years from now? More importantly, what will be our strategy around digital education going forward? Today, we have here with us eminent educationists who will discuss this very topic. Our first speaker on this topic is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Barrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are privileged to have Mr. Barrett as a senior advisor. So, thank you so much for sparing the time to be here today. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Subayu. I hope I'm audible.
Perfectly, sir.
A lot of disturbance outside the window, actually. A very good evening to all present, the Notebook team, our esteemed panelists and guests. Again, a very broad-based topic, and I am going to take it on from what I think schools are going to do in the coming months, because in Dehradun, most schools are reopening on Monday, the coming Monday, for the summer term. And so how do I see digital education merging with the traditional? Now, we all know that during the pandemic in March 2020, when not many people knew the nature of this virus, school shut down in order to stop the spread. But learning continued. And I must say teachers adapted admirably. Along with the healthcare workers, I think teachers deserve the Nobel Prize for something or the other for what they did. There were online classes, video assemblies, schools had assemblies, and even the die-hard resistors to digital learning took to Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google Class, and what have you. In fact, the pandemic just expedited what was already creeping into the Indian education system. Gradually, slow, but the pandemic sort of raced it forward, and practice makes perfect. And very soon, schools became very adept at teaching online, using online resources. I mean, you look around schools today, even the smallest schools, they have robotics, they have 3D printing, they have coding, they have tinkering labs, even the smallest of schools. So you can see that things are coming in, things are happening. And and I think we owe this to the pandemic. Um, it was not that schools in India were not moving in the right direction, but it also depended on the type of schools and the resources they had. Now, these high-paying fees or schools, let's say established schools with very, very rich endowments, or schools in big metros, they were already well on the way of doing whatever the best schools abroad were doing in Europe and the US. These schools were fully wired campuses and had allowed laptops to most students, at least especially the senior students. Teachers were experienced in the use of digital platforms. And these schools, the parent body could afford whatever the school put forward to them. It is in the middle rung schools, the smaller schools, in the smaller cities, these less endowed schools, they too managed very well. Schools took to online learning. It is phenomenal the way they did it. Yes, they often struggled with the heterogeneous student body. Some students even didn't have enough, devices at home to go around. They fought over cell phones and the one laptop that existed. So a lot of these middle rung schools did face problems, but they did go online. The problems, I think, occurred in the rural and hilly areas and the poor schools, like in my state, Uttarakhand, where the schools are not financially well off and neither are the students. These students did not benefit in the same way as students in bigger and elitist schools. And, I think contrary to the popular belief that the pandemic, led to education for all, I beg to differ. I think the lockdown created a great divide between the haves and the have-nots. And very small amount of people actually benefited from digital education because a large number of poor schools in the hills didn't even have connectivity. This is where companies like Notebook and others, with their learning platforms and their modules, they came in really in a very big way, and they substituted for the tutor. And whatever the teacher didn't teach or failed to teach, or if there was no connectivity that day, it was products like Notebook that could have filled the gap. And I think this is what they did. And I think the unfair system of not all schools benefiting affected us. Not only do these poor schools have the absence of teachers, these students, not only did they have no teachers sometimes, no contact with their teachers, they didn't meet their peers, there was no extracurricular activities. Also, the mental health of many students got affected. And I think, contrary to what we believe, even though there was online education, I wonder how much learning actually took place. And we shall see on Monday when schools reopen here, when a teacher walks in and says, "Oh, we did fractions in 2020. Do you know it?" And many students might say, "No, ma'am, we didn't learn it." That's my fear. Now, 2 years have gone. We are looking at the third wave of virus, and doctors know how to deal with it. And as I said, schools are limping back. But what is the normal classroom going to look like? First of all, there's never going to be a school without the whiteboards or blackboards, without teachers, without lectures. The traditional way cannot be replaced, in my view. But what's going to happen is more digital means of interaction, student involvement is going to take place. How much or what percentage? This will depend on a number of factors. And I think there are 5 prime movers in my view that is going to expedite this in schools. One is the government policies. And with the new education policy giving us a shot in the arm, I think the road is open to schools adapting to or adopting digital education. I think government policies do not come in the way. The other is parental demand. If a parent demands a school modernize and teach for the future, schools will do it. And yet there are many parents who think that the old way was fine. There is no need to have digital learning. If the school gets good results, if the students get to college, if you're getting 99 percenters, why rock the boat? There will be that thinking in traditional parents. Students' demands. I think students are going to push very strongly in getting schools to digitalize, because that's their future lies in digitalization. Their future lies in IT. The other thing is the demand of the syllabus. Now, how demanding is the syllabus on the way exams are done, on the way homework is done, on the way assessments are done? At the moment, I don't know what the CBSE and ICSE boards demand in terms of online education, but in the international exam, I think it's very important that digital learning comes in. So the demands of the syllabus are another one. And lastly, I think the vision of the school, how the boards, how the owners, how the management of a school see the future. Where is the school driven to be excellent? You know, the drive for excellence comes from the vision of the management. And lastly, I think the creativity, vision, energy of the principals and the staff, very important. Without progressive heads and teachers pushing for changes, demanding best practices of their schools, we will go back 20 years. Certainly, I would like to guess that there'll be a number of scenarios in the coming months. The best schools, the most expensive schools, the richest schools, the IB schools are already doing digital learning. They will just get better. There will be a lot of classroom teaching using digitalized media, online assessments, research-based learning, working in groups. Hybrid learning they had it will just get better. I'm worried about the middle rung schools, because here again, because of the less fortunate clientele, two things may happen. Some of them will adapt fantastically and be on par with the best schools in the country because of creativity, vision, good staff. But I'm afraid that many schools, and I've seen it in Dehradun, are going to fall back on the traditional chalk and talk lessons. They'll pack up the computer, they'll put down the screens, they've had enough of it over the last 2 years, and they might just go back into the old ways of learning, which is teacher talking and the students listening. And that is my biggest fear. And the falling back to the usual lessons, as if COVID never happened, would be very sad and a very retrograde step. Because while the COVID epidemic helped advance the cause of digital education, going back to blackboards would be like going back to the dark ages. And I think we must not encourage parents to dictate to school heads what they should do. And, let's not rock the boat because the school's doing well. It was doing well, let's keep it that way. In rural and poor schools, I'm afraid things will revert back to the normal, because there is so much else to be done before they start digital education. They've got to start with drinking water, toilets, teacher absenteeism, harsh punishments, better teacher training, availability of textbooks, transport to school. So many other aspects of schooling that needs priority over digital education. I think the development of rural schools are going to be poor unless the government puts in a lot of funding and a lot of help in those areas. I think this last category of this type of school, they need the greatest help from the government and NGOs and us, because these children are the most driven children in India. They are the most talented children in India, and they are in the greatest need for education and jobs. And we must not leave out the rural schools, the poor schools. This is where the major emphasis has to be, shown. I think in the area of teacher training, better teachers, use of digital media, all this has to be stressed in the rural schools. I personally don't believe that things will ever get back to the pre-2020 days, because we've all seen the advantages of digital learning, and we must use this and ride the wave in becoming better. Blended learning, hybrid learning, whatever you call it, is the need of the hour. I think digital education is very costly. It's a costly affair. And this is the single deterrent that schools find in adopting to digital education. And therefore, schools need to budget. They have to invest in digital growth. continuous upgrading, teacher training, etc. I want to close by saying that, in my view, a great school is something that is a place where, there are so many different types of learning that's all amalgamated into the classroom. A perfect blended system would look like lectures, guest talks, video-based comprehensive classes, interrogative question and answer sessions, research-based lessons, where students are reading silently from their laptops, and links are given and websites are provided by the teacher. There should also be lessons where the teacher is attending to a few weak students while the rest are doing individual work. There should also be lessons where the students present their researched work and the teacher sits in the background. There should be group learning of different groups, small groups, large groups. There should be a student sitting around a table discussing a topic in literature around a large table. There could be a lesson that starts with a formative assessment. And based on the results of that formative assessments, the class is divided into groups based on their levels, and the teacher has graded exercises for them. So there's so much one can do. There should also be lessons held outside the classrooms in villages, which deal with interviews. There should be field trips in geography, visits to places of interest in history, more practical based learning also. There should be amalgamation of all the sciences to have a sort of scientific study or research on a project where the entire class works on a large project. So in my view, digital learning is here to stay. It's got to be amalgamated properly with the traditional methods of learning, which can't be tossed out because you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And schools need to enrich their learning experience and involve and inculcate different ways of learning. I thank you very much for listening to me. I know I've rambled on. I look forward to the views of our esteemed panelists and Achin Bhattacharyya. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sparing your time and for this wonderful introduction. We could not have asked for a better one. We knew that when we brought in such experienced educationalists and asked them for a future strategy, especially around digital education, we would get some wonderful thoughts, wonderful ideas. And I think your bottom-up strategy of taking care of the bottom rung first resonated very well with everybody attending today. Thank you so much for this, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of the ICAI, and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. An avid reader and passionate traveler, Achin has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce, and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session. Now, today's topic, if you all look at it, is future strategy around digital education. Esteemed educators in this forum, I'm sure you'll recollect that over our last more than 160 episodes, we had quite a few episodes around digital education and various aspects of it. We discussed in great details with thought-provoking input from senior educators. We discussed around implementing digital education. I remember that was in the first phase of the pandemic, when we just started our series of webinars. We discussed about digital divide, the unfortunate reality, but it's also referred to it short while back. We also discuss about the very important issue of use and abuse of digital education, the inherent challenges. And we discussed about various other topics also around it. But today, if we going by our experience over almost last 2 years, what all of us have seen, and if we focus on the future strategy around digital education, there's one particular report I was going through very recently, which I wanted to share with all of you. Very recently, the Harvard Future of Teaching and Learning task. It's a task force. They issued a report detailing the learning innovations inspired by the pandemic and recommending the university to invest in making digital tools and new forms of online content available globally. It's quite a comprehensive report, almost 47 pages. And it actually examines Harvard's online learning innovations and develops strategies for faculty, for schools, and the university to take advantage of them. And it has come up with a very brilliant 3-phase implementation plan. So the executive summary of the report acknowledges the university's experimentation with remote and hybrid learning, which began far before the pandemic. And it cites the university's adaptive strategies during the pandemic as instances of future innovation. Now, the report's recommendations, as I told you earlier, have been divided very distinctly into 3 phases by time frame. First and foremost, immediate recommendations. Second, those which can be recommended over, say, next 1 to 3 years. And third, long-term recommendations. So the phase 1 of the report, which deals with immediate recommendation, recommends aspects which revolve around enhancing a culture of innovation, encouraging faculty and schools to continue exploring online forms of learning for more adaptive and interactive curriculum. It has given a lot of stress on the interaction factor. And it has also opined that schools should also expand pre-matriculation programs, as well as programs accommodating remote learning. And at the university level, so it has also dealt with the K-12 and at the university level, the report recommends Harvard to develop more standardized tools and techniques for faculty, including best practice, classroom tools, best practices. So first phase focuses very much on innovation. In the second implementation phase, which is 1 to 3 years, it recommends shift from faculty and school-led initiatives to university-wide changes, focusing on advancing the tech infrastructure and developing content strategies. So it says that in addition to building new classrooms, which are equipped for online synchronous learning and space for faculty to experiment with new digital tools, the report recommends that the university build a new robust online platform, which should be university-wide, encompassing all departments, all faculties. And going a step further, in the third phase of recommendation, which is long run. So first phase focus on innovation, second phase focus on technology, and also ensuring that it's cohesive. And the third phase of recommendations adds that investing in universities' digital presence could create a more global Harvard. The university really wants to reach out and ensure that maximum number of students around the world are getting benefit from the huge knowledge repository that such a prestigious institution holds, to offer more accessible learning experiences. And it has come up with a term called Harvard Global Learning 2.0. That's the vision in long run. And the report advocated more outreach to international populations and engagement with alumni from various, past programs, which are virtual, residential. It also recommends updated policies for teaching staff who desire to share their knowledge with the larger world. And it cites examples of how this entire interactive learning format could be thought afresh. Complete blue sky thinking, faculty-sponsored podcasts, nano courses, and Harvard-sponsored master classes. And it concludes with the hope that Harvard can actually diversify and innovate its educational content as well as expand its global reach. It actually aspires to offer an improved experience to more number of learners, first of all, and also it wants to ensure that educators are able to share their knowledge to learners who are spread out across the world more consistently, and more accessibility is built in. Engaging with learners, engaging with communities, partners, institutions, so as to revolutionize the entire concept of education worldwide, entire global education. So virtual learning undoubtedly is a new fault line in education. It's and this particular report, if we go through this, is very clear with regard to the way in which the entire world is progressing. So very recently, I was going through a quote by a very senior bureaucrat and one of the architects of various policies, Niti Aayog chairman. And very rightly, he said that the pandemic induced learning crisis and the fourth industrial revolution have made it necessary to reimagine education and align it with the unprecedented technological transformation. So today, if you look at India's school education landscape, even before the pandemic, I guess we were facing daunting challenges. Going by past PISA rankings, surveys, etc. But pandemic definitely posed a huge challenge. It actually threatened to exacerbate the entire crisis, especially considering the entire aspect of physical closure of schools. And that is the reason that this entire learning crisis and the way teachers and the entire ecosystem, including parents, schools, technology platforms, the way everybody has joined hands, collaborated, and ensured that students don't lose a precious academic year, in itself is a huge achievement. And Burrett very rightly referred to it. So a lot of developments have happened on this, including the new education policy 2020. And today, if you look at the kind of government initiatives that over a course of time, and it's not about today, even prior to pandemic, be it or during pandemic, post it, be it initiatives like Diksha, Swayam Prabha, e-Pathshala portal, Nishtha, virtual labs, O-labs, National Digital Education Architecture, NDAR, PM E-Vidya program. So a lot of initiatives have been taken. There's no doubt about it. Even other initiatives, for example, initiatives like Shiksha Vani, where it was advocated that widespread use of radio so as to ensure that we are able to reach a larger number of students. So I think a lot of commendable initiatives have been taken in this regard. But today, as we stand at this crossroad, when all of us, with great hope and optimism, we all hope that things will go back to normal now that we see schools are reopening, now that we see children are going back to schools. Of course, I would like to hear from senior educators in this panel, their thought process with regard to the way forward. How do they actually see digital education adding value going forward? Because I guess this is the time when digital education will actually be put to test. Prior to this, for last 1.5 years, 2 years, undoubtedly the gap was huge. But considering the fact that where we are now, I'm very confident that digital education has to come in as an aid to teachers. So it's not about either or, but it's about teachers with technology. I'm also going through some very wonderful, implementation plans around the country that has happened during pandemic and how things have been taken forward. For instance, I was reading about Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So I think this in itself is a very beautiful case study, considering the kind of unique challenges that students in the island they face. At times, telecom connectivity is a challenge. At times, internet speed is a challenge. So, but the Department of Education in Andaman and Nicobar Islands has taken proactive steps to ensure that school children do not lose any opportunity of learning. And during pandemic, the best part is what I saw, that programs are being broadcasted through Doordarshan in the islands. And there's a joint initiative by the Department of Education in collaboration with Doordarshan Port Blair to broadcast pre-recorded teleclasses for students of class 10 and 12. And the entire thing was done very systematically, considering the fact that regular hourly slots covering main subjects of classes 10 and 12, and covering the entire syllabus prescribed by NCERT, teaching through various teaching aids. Also, not only Doordarshan, I also saw that cable TV network, cable TV operators in the island, the entire chain of islands in Andaman and Nicobar, they all joined hands. They all came forward and took steps to ensure that pre-recorded digital classes were broadcasted. I think this was a very this is a unique example of how the entire civil society needs to come forward and ensure that we put the interest of our next generation first. I really found this very motivating, very inspirational. And not only television and not only cable television, even audio classes were conducted through All India Radio Port Blair. 3 sessions per day being broadcasted. And all days of the week except Sundays, all major subjects being covered, ensuring that students who are in board years, they get adequate support. So today, when we look at initiatives like that, we're very confident that there's no doubt about it, that digital education, if properly implemented in letter and spirit, can actually add tremendous value. It can add tremendous value as an enabler. It can add tremendous value to ensure that students actually take active interest in the subject, generate curiosity. But then again, what I always believe in is that schools and teachers are irreplaceable. And digital education, irrespective of howsoever good the content is, has to always be an aid in the hands of esteemed educators, so as to ensure that it's able to make the maximum possible impact. So these are a few thoughts that I wanted to share. We have a wonderful panel here today, a panel of very senior educators. And considering the fact that today where we are at a crossroad, I really want to hear from them their own practical perspective with regard to the way forward on this topic. I thank all of you for giving me a very patient hearing. Over to you, Shubhari.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we do have some wonderful speakers lined up for you that we'll call upon very shortly. But before we do that, a little bit about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech platform. We work in the same space of digital education. We create short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. This means that every topic of every subject that you teach in school, you would find pertaining videos on the Notebook platform. Now, these videos come in handy in 2 different cases. One is when you as a teacher are using digital content to teach your students. You can use Notebook videos as an introduction to the topic that you're about to teach. These short 6 to 10 minute long videos provide the perfect visual hook for your students to get really curious about what you're about to teach. Next is when the students are studying at home. The students have access to the same videos on their personal devices, be it a laptop or a smartphone or whatever that they can get their hands on. They can watch the videos over and over again until they get a crystal clear grasp of what you have been teaching. Let me play you a short segment of one of the notebook videos so that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Climate change has been one of the main concerns of human beings as a race. Preservation of the environment is one topic upon which the entire humanity seems to unanimously agree. A revolutionary change has come in the perception of human beings in the way they view the world. It has been compared to the 16th century phenomena of Copernicus teaching mankind that Earth and the other planets revolved round the sun. Mankind has successfully shifted from the mechanistic view to a holistic and ecological view of the world. We have finally started viewing the Earth as a living organism with its own needs and processes, and not just a machine that is created to support our endless needs. The concept of sustainable development was popularized in 1987 by the World Commission on Environment and Development, which later came to be known as the Brundtland Commission. In October 1987, they released a report which was named Our Common Future. This document introduced and popularized the term sustainable development. Now, let us learn what sustainable development is. The report defined the idea as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. It basically means to be able to maintain a balance between mankind's needs and nature's ability to meet those needs without being degraded or destroyed. Man is considered the most dangerous animal in the world. To illustrate this point, a zoo at Lusaka, Zambia has a cage with the notice, "The world's most dangerous animal." Inside the cage is a mirror that shows the viewer his reflection.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you head over to the Notebook website or Notebook app, www.notebook.school is where you'll find us. You will find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal that you can use to teach all the topics from the school curriculum. With that done, it is now my privilege to introduce the wonderful panelists that we have with us today. Our first panelist today is Dr. T. Padmavati, who is the principal of the Fusion International School. She has been a gold medalist in chemistry for her MSc. She holds a doctorate in chemistry. And according to a survey done by the Higher Education Review magazine, Dr. Padmavathy Tungaturthi is ranked one among the top 25 women principals of India for the year 2018. She was also awarded the Best Principal of India for the year 2019. She has been a panelist for various topics at seminars conducted all over the country. A voracious reader and a passionate teacher, she teaches physical sciences to class 10 and class 12 students. She makes sure that students read avidly, as readers to her are leaders. She nurtures learners to be leaders with 21st century skills, is the prime focus of learning at her school. She personally supervises all the social work done by the school and is a strong believer of the philosophy that small changes make a big difference in the workplace. She loves to train the teachers to make a difference to the society. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing the time to be here today. It's a privilege to have you.
Thank you very much.
We also have with us Dr. Anupama Mishra, who is the principal of the Sunbeam School Varuna in Varanasi. She herself holds a PhD in English from BHU after passing her BA and an MA in English. She passed her BEd with first division in 1992. She's been a master trainer in computer from Intel, a certified pastoral counselor by Umid Foundation, and also a member of the UP Scouts and Guides. She worked as a teacher at the Vivekanand Abhinav Shikshan Sansthan for 2 years, and then as a teacher at Sri Krishna Prabha Vidya Mandir for 1 year. She went on to work as a teacher at Guru Nanak English School before joining the Sunbeam Annapurna as teacher and coordinator. She was also the headmistress in Sunbeam School Varuna from 2004 to 2007, the vice principal from 2007 to 2012, and as principal from 2012 till date. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. We count on your years of experience to show what different strategies we can have around digital education. We also have with us Dr. Rashmi Tyagi. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here and welcome back. It's always a privilege to have you. Ma'am holds a PhD in chemistry from IIT Roorkee, is a B.Ed gold medalist, and holds an M.Ed from Mumbai University. She taught chemistry at University of Mumbai and MS University, Baroda. She worked as a principal in a CBSE school and was trained as a CBSE principal at IIM Bangalore. She has published various research papers in chemistry, environment science, rural and urban farming, innovative teaching pedagogy, nanotechnology, biomarkers, etc. She has brought changes in various rural CBSE schools and educated rural women in health and hygiene. Her various projects include indigenous advantage of cow urine, hydroponics, and rural and urban farming. She's also worked with geospatial technology and has taken a filmmaking course in collaboration with the CBSE. She has given scientific talks on All India Radio and is an NABET trained peer assessor for accreditation as selected as peer assessor by CBSE. She won the Ideal Principal Award 2008, the Commendable Paper Presentation Award by NCRT CBSE Conference 2010, Educationist of the Year Award 2013, Science Communicator Selection Indian Science Congress 2015, and was honored by Srinagar University for her Aquaponics Animal Science Congress 2016. She was given the School Bus and Child Safety Award 2017, the Leadership Excellence Award UAE 2018, and the Lifetime Achievement Award 2020 by the Campbell University in USA. She has also been awarded for Outstanding Contribution to Community in 2020, for Innovation and Excellence in Rural Education in 2020, the Stree Shakti Samman Award 2020, and the Painting Award 2020. She's also won the C.V. Raman Education Award 2021, and I'm quite sure I'm still not naming all of them. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. As I said, always a privilege to have you back. Let me start my video now, and I shall stop the share so that we can see all of you. Once again, a very, very good evening and welcome to the webinar. Dr. Padmavati, if I may come to you first with the basic question that everybody has on their mind. We have seen digital education in most shapes and forms, right? We've seen online, offline, hybrid, blended, flipped. We've seen it all. What, according to you, will be the future steady state? Where will all this stabilize?
Primarily, thank you, Notebook, for inviting me for this panel discussion. It's and happy Ugadi to all those who are celebrating the festival today. And the next thing is regarding COVID and the learnings which have happened. It is online, offline, hybrid, and blended. And it took a lot of time for people to understand the difference between hybrid learning and blended learning. But what are we looking at? We are first looking at these platforms as a tool in the first layer. The second layer comes as a learning for the child. And the third layer is anywhere, anytime. The confluence of all these, we are calling it as digital learning these days. It should be a wonderful experience. As a principal, I have undergone through the times of test to teach the teachers and the students how to undergo this transformation. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we are supposed to learn and be ready for what is to be present there in the future. Therefore, there is nothing like a steady state. I look it up, I take it up as a skill revolution, which is going to happen. Because today I see that augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things, this is the era. Because 10 years ago, when I was working in the school, things were all new. Even smart boards were a new thing for us 10 years ago. But now smart boards have become the order of the day. And now this is very much important, and students should take it very seriously, that they should be independent learners with the help of digital education. It's not that the definition of the classroom has changed, because the student can go through any time, anywhere, with no barriers in their language of learning. The teachers, the facilitators, the learners, they put digital education will be there permanently. And we really don't know what will be there in the future in store for all of us. Because overnight we had to learn the technique of getting into the mainstream of education. Because when the whole world is learning, we cannot say that we have fallen behind in India. It's very important for us to understand that we have to learn to reveal the unknown and face the unknown situation later on in our lives. The agility, the adaptability, and learning strategies, being an independent learner, these are the important facts. Taking digital learning as a tool for all of us. This is my personal opinion, Mr. Roy.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Digital learning as a tool, obviously, one thing that we keep saying here at Notebook is the teacher is the most irreplaceable part of the entire education system. You can change the tools, you can change the furniture, you can change the way a school is structured as a building, but the teacher's presence is what makes education happen. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Dr. Mishra, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, similar question. Where do you see this headed? What do you think would be the next steps?
Okay, good evening and Jai Hind, all the fellow colleagues. Happy to be on this platform of the Notebook, where we are talking about the future strategy around the digital education. Mr. Philip very rightly said that we did not know where the future lies before the pandemic did hit. We claimed to be a school which was wow. And we're like, we were already in the technology-based learning and teaching. But the moment the pandemic hit, we realized we were nowhere. It was all farce. Actually, having the digiboards or having some computer classes did not define being a technology-based learning. Though a lot of struggle, lot of hues and cries, lot of pressure on the teachers. Salute to the teachers who really proved to be the COVID barriers. Because when the world stopped, the learning and the teaching did not stop. The education continued, even in the confinements of the room and the houses. Training was a very tough challenge, staying at home, putting them under pressure of completing CPD of 50 hours with so many temptations and so many pressures and encouragements. Do complete your technology-based learnings. There were problems, internet not accessible, very slow speed of internet all across. Every parent, every teacher, every administrator around did talk about the internet, did talk about inaccessibility. There was no fixed policy because we were also the first-hand learners. We were also the strugglers to move on to the virtual platform. The biggest hindrance that we faced was the lack of social coordination. The gaining the trust of the parent that we are going to do the justice with the learning, with the education, even when we are online. It was difficult to motivate them to hand over their mobiles to the child to study. So we had to do many parents orientation virtually itself. Hardly people joined, but slowly and slowly, when they did, I think there were a lot of peer learning when they did meet their associate, when they did meet their own friends and they got a feedback, the numbers did increase. Teachers training came up as a challenge. And now when we find ourselves so efficient at the virtual platforms, either it's Microsoft Teams or you name any edtech tool, starting from the podcast to Canva to Wakelet to Nearpod, whatever you name, the teachers and the whole entire group is so well trained on all this, with having around 78 teachers who are MIE in the school, and same they are appearing for MCE through the Microsoft Teams. The school being Microsoft Showcase School, Wakelet Showcase School, and the Google Showcase School. Now there is a different kind of, problem that we see across, that you talk about the strategies. Now we need to plan and what we need to define. Like, it's very important now that we need to keep the identity of being digital citizen intact in the days to come. We need to prove like we have actually been a netizen, following all the net hygiene that is expected to be followed by a teacher, by a student, and by a parent also. Yes, there were mockeries on the social media, the way you all realized that the children did mute themselves and kept on talking, apart from the classroom that was going on. We did face a problem. There were children who were writing absurd. They were able to enter into our Zoom meetings or the classroom or Google Classroom with the unknown names, kept on, scribbling on the screen and all. But thank God that phase is over. Now we need to be talking about screen time management. From so many years, we were celebrating in the school like the important weeks. Or this was a pattern of my assemblies and my calendar. 1 week was like Prime Minister's week, one was Jungle week, one was Varanasi week, one was Heritage week, and we had one no gadget week just before the examination. And this year when I sat down, I found it very difficult to say no gadget week. What will the children do in the evening online class if I say? So I had to turn and twist and no gadget addiction week. So I had to do that, and I had to change because children have gone so much into gamification on the mobile. Even a 2.5-year child of nursery says, "Ma'am, can you WhatsApp me? I am online. Can you WhatsApp me the video? I have not attended the class." Of course, we are doing synchronous, asynchronous, both the modes, like it's on. And we keep on doing at least one online class every day so that neither the children nor the teacher go out of the habit of having online class. God forbid anything happens suddenly. So we will be back on the same mode in the days to come. Few things: cyber bullying management, cyber security management, like making the children understand about what is spam, what is scam, what is phishing. I think it's important today. We need to be talking a lot about that, along with the critical thinking about the kind of sites they are using. We need to tell themselves what they have to see, what they have to, like what they should forbid. Those kind of critical thinking needs to be developed. I think more and more talks from us as educators need to be done in the assembly, in their orientation. Privacy management. What is the limit? Aapki had kahan tak hai? You cannot move beyond that. That has to be explained to a child, especially classes 6 to class 12, because they do not understand the boundaries. They are growing and they feel the sky is the boundary that they should reach, which is going to be very, very harmful for the coming generation. They also need to understand digital empathy. And the last thing that I want to say is digital footprint management. Because someone, I asked what happened one day. This is my mobile. And every time I open, I was getting a makeup tutorial of the bride. Many times on the Facebook, when I open, I find the bridal tutorials. Whenever I went to YouTube, it was bridal tutorial, or it was cooking food, recipes of food. And I wondered, like, if I want to see something political, as my husband gets on his Facebook, all the political news about BJP and Congress, why don't I get? So one of my colleagues, she said, "Ma'am, do you realize it's Android? Your camera is on and it 24/7, it's reading your mind. So what you see will again and again keep on coming your mobile, and you are leaving your footprint unknowingly on this digital social media. So I think this is the time we need to tell our children, you are leaving digital footprint so in a so concrete way on this media that it would be very difficult for you to come out in case you take a wrong step or you go something and put something, you see even something that is not acceptable for a child of your age, but still you will be tagged to it. So I think these are the few things I could think as an educator. That's what we keep on talking about in our school. That's what we keep on doing quite a few sessions. And I think if we start doing as educators, even few things out of it, some way the younger generation yet to come will have a safer future and a happy generation for the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was wonderful. So we've heard about how digital education should be a tool and teachers are at the center of things, obviously. We've now heard about how the behavior that you have in the digital world, how that has to be part of the strategy, right? How you educate students to manage their digital presence, their digital footprint, their digital persona. Dr. Tyagi, if I may come to you next, ma'am. We've heard from them. We've always had great inputs from you. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. And I think it is my proud privilege to be hearing such, educators of great thoughts. And whatever they said, that is the, story of all the teachers and all the educators. So I don't have to say anything much about that. But so many new things have taken place. As you have, all of us have passed through this time of pandemic, and then how this online teaching learning, it has come. And the digitalization of the education has taken place. And due to that, everything around us in the education and in other areas also, things have changed. Due to the robotics. Now the engineers and doctors, whether they'll be required in the future. Because if we think of a child studying in 5th standard, or maybe in the 2nd or 3rd standard, and if the parents, they come to us and ask us whether my child, he has to become an engineer or a doctor, can we predict that after 10 years, the same kind of job opportunities will be there or not? So I will say that they will not be there. It will be a new world. We are not realizing, but it will change slowly. So this 2021 decade, and when you reach 30, like it is 2022, when it will be 2030, the things will change. And that is due to the digitalization. And now also the students are learning coding, robotics, and that is very correct, because in homes also, the robot cleaners have come. And now I heard that there'll be, these trains will be moving in the air, not on the rails as they are being done now. And it will be done with the remote only. And so many, changes in the energy sector is going to take place. And the auto, these engineers. So because now we'll have robots to do everything. So these engineers, the way they are working today, whether they will be requiring that or not, we don't know. And even the robotic surgery has come, automation and robotic surgery. So whether the doctors whom we are teaching now, they will be not needing something extra as per the future. So as the topic is digitalization, therefore I have to tell all these things. And all of us know that the blended teaching learning has come, and it has come for good, because teaching learning has changed. And now we talk about so many different things like, competency-based education, outcome-based education, and the integration of arts into science. And because of that, the whole system, educational system has changed. And now the assessments have changed, and 3 hours of those exams, they will not be there in the future, which are based on the memorization. So this digitalization and the pandemic, it has transformed the face of the education. And now in future, we will be, just finding out what is the competency of the students and whatever we have taught them, what they have learned. And then in the big corporate houses also, they will be requiring that what the student has learned. Okay, IQ is very good. The result is 100% or 101% intelligence quotient. How about the emotional quotient? Whether the student, if he becomes the CEO of the company, whether he can handle if something wrong takes place, he has to be a multitasker. So that is, the face of the education has changed. And day before yesterday, I was doing one training as a CBSE resource person, where the topic was teacher energized resources. So it means all these, we have to teach them, that they have to teach the student in such a way that what is the ability of the student after we have taught him something, a topic. So what can he do? What can he memorize? No, that is not important. Rote learning is all out. So what is important, that what is the outcome of the education, whether he can paint well, whether he can sing well, whether he can write the poetries, whether he can act well, whether he can direct some film, and all digitally, mostly digitally. Or can he write the stories like Shakespeare, original stories, original poem? Can he design something? Can he design the engine of an aircraft? In the higher classes, I'm saying. So that way, the whole thing has transformed. And, now the digitalization has become the reality. In olden times, we used to know that some people could, connect with other people and sitting very much far, but mentally they used to connect it. In Egypt also, in India also, in Mahabharata, we hear such things. So now we are doing it, but we are doing it with the, these online internet and all those. So that has come true. So now we should not go for these standardized exams. We should go only these online exams. And then some internal assessments where the students are writing the, reports, they are writing the projects, they are writing the assignments, and due to the digital media, they are giving the presentations. And, public speaking has become so important these days. I'm seeing so many corporate youngsters, those who are going, to these people for, being a good speaker, because the whole day they are sitting in their room and they are interacting through this media, digital media, and how they are talking, the way I am talking today, the way Shubhayu is talking, and all of you, you have talked so beautifully, but you are in the education sector, you can do it. But what about the children who are going out, and have we taught them all these things? So that has become very important. And digital divide, that is also a great problem, but now, it is being solved, because when I talk of my kitchen help, so she's having a girl who is an engineer, but they are having 2-3 mobile homes at their home. But then I've got another kitchen help. She is not having a mobile because her children are having the mobile and she cannot afford that mobile. So in Mumbai also, so many things are happening, the father is having one mobile and the children, and from the, state board schools also, they are not able to, attend the classes. So that digital divide in the, rural areas, because I have worked in rural area also, the internet is not there. So it is being very difficult, but we should fill up. And then what we are doing, that our old mobiles we are giving to these people, and new mobiles also. And in the schools, I've heard that some good parents, they have paid even the fees of such, students who cannot pay their own fee. And also they have, given their old mobiles or the new mobiles to the students. So that way, digitalization has come for sure. And what will happen tomorrow, I cannot predict. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. But we are going to push you towards that, right? To predict what the future holds, because It'll be very interesting to see, because what we think we eventually achieve. Hertz drew Destination Moon and Explorers on the Moon with Tintin traveling in a rocket way before Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. So it's eventually a function of human imagination. Dr. Padmavati, if I may come to you next, ma'am. Ma'am was just talking about standardized tests, right? And it's not just tests, but schools have classically been built around standardization. Uniforms, same desks, same chairs, similar looking rooms. It's a process of creating standards, and that's the way education system has typically been looked at. We are being forced to look at it differently. We are forced to bring in elements that break standards. We are going to celebrate people who stand out, the outliers. Ma'am, how does it affect schools? So in future, what would a school look like? And I don't just mean structurally, but as an entire entity of people along with the infra.
Yes, school has a principal on the first layer, and the teachers, the students, and along with them, there are parents who are going to be there in the school. These are all the stakeholders. In the theory of multiple intelligences says that there are so many ways of learning and so many ways of excelling. See, I'm basically a kinesthetic child. Therefore, when they are music smart, art smart, logic smart, and the nature lovers, these people cannot be taught inside the school. We have to rub the walls. We have to remove the walls and go into the environment to learn. Whatever is there in the environment is brought here into the textbook. It's not that whatever is in the textbook has flew out into the society, isn't it? No, that's what it is. When we take digital learning into confidence, when we take apps into our learning, so we understand that a student is as effective as a teacher, and a teacher is as effective as a principal. This is my personal experience. If a pedagogical leader, a teacher, is able to do a good job by bringing in many changes into the learning system, not restricting the students into those standardized learning, good that our discussion is after the Pariksha Pe Charcha, which was done yesterday by Modi ji. It says that there is no more rote learning which is going to happen in the school. Every day is a formative learning day of the child. Whatever the child learns throughout the academic year is what is going to present it. Nowhere the word exams has come into picture in Modi ji's talk. He was answering the students very neatly to say no to memorized learning. And we have also seen that the extended way of learning, the collaboration, the 21st century skills have really put us into various countries instantly, that we can watch another teacher's talk, we can watch another, there is a confluence of learning which is happening there. Standardization is good to understand where the students are leveled up. After that, how to improve the student. A good principal must always improve the student, improve the teachers. What sources of professional development have to be given? It is infrastructure-wise also the professional development has to be done to the teachers. For example, there are many places where there are smart boards and the teachers refuse to use them. Therefore, what sort of training should be given to the teachers to bring in the outside world into the classroom? The adaptability of the teacher, the adaptability of the student, and to see that the subconscious mind learns even after the classroom timing. Now, first of all, what's a school? A school is defined as a place where there is learning happening with a certain number of students. This certain number of students is now widened up to the whole world. Otherwise, we will be left behind in the process of globalization. because the whole world is going forward. When we have 250 million students in India going to school, we have only 60% of them using internet. Therefore, the 40% are left out. Therefore, every 100% are now to be brought outside the physical structure of classroom. And why the sports teacher is also not considering the sports ground as a classroom. Playground is not just for playing. It's a place where they understand that what are the rules and regulations, how to collaborate with others, what are the various job opportunities they get beyond the classroom. Many people think that sports is an extra period and they erase that period and they see that the students have to memorize. Now there is no memory learning. I'm just waiting and looking forward to see how the students are going to learn and how the teachers are going to give a hand holding for the student. The physical classroom is an old thought, I think I feel that immediately that we have to reminisce saying that, oh, once upon a time we had a physical classroom. We cannot have a feeling that there is a physical classroom going on. It doesn't mean that the space now how the work from home is happening. See, if these children are taught to stay back in one room without collaboration, how about the employability skills of the students? We are snatching away the employability skills of students when we put them into a standardized mode. Because every day we say, do not show this to the student and do not do your own work, don't copy. And as soon as they go into the job perspective, they're supposed to report to the superiors. Then how are they going to do it? They have this kind of confusion in their mind. Therefore, let them have presentation skills, let them have a field trip, let them go out, let them bring in the outside world, the future strategy, digital learning into their classroom to see that the learning, the knowledge, the wisdom is much bigger than what they do. This again is my personal opinion.
Wonderful, wonderful, ma'am. I think that was a great bit. In fact, you just reminded me of something. I did my MBA from a place called TAPME in Manipal, Karnataka. And we had invited the chair professor for marketing at Harvard as a guest to our college, Dr. Jagdish Seth. So the college had a huge library, and very fancily, somebody had put the name Knowledge Center on the library. Very smart naming. So Dr. Seth walks into the college, looks at the library and says, so that's the Knowledge Center. Everybody says yes. Says, what about the rest of it? What happens with the rest of the campus? Right? So when you look at every bit of the school, including the playground, every interaction is an opportunity for learning. And that's a beautiful strategy to have around learning as a whole. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Mishra, if I may come to you next, I'll borrow a question from Dr. Padmavati. She asked, how do you train the teachers, right? The teachers are still the most important piece. They are your facilitators in whatever new form of digital learning you're looking at. How do you train them, or what traits would you look for if you have to hire a teacher now or in the next 5 years?
Right now, since the schools have started opening offline from nursery onwards, of course, it's not only the education sector like the teacher is limited to now. Of course, along with the personal and professional development, that's the basic requirement. Right now, if I have to look for a teacher now, I'm of course going to look for, very traditional way of having a written test and oral test and interviewing and taking a classroom demo. But along with that, we are having a virtual online class demonstration as well, in the simple words. And what is the emotional quotient of the teacher? That has become into this, VUCA world, and the way everything, children, those who are coming to the school are actually emotionally very weak. The time that they have spent at their home has made them vulnerable, not only to the, physical fatigue, but also, I think, the way we had been talking to these children from the KG section and the junior classes about sharing and caring, all those definitions have gone somewhere. It has lost. No one talks about sharing and caring. Now everyone talks about don't touch. Don't touch me. Don't touch my.
Ma'am, you are on mute.
And apart from that, maintaining physical distance. It's not the physical distance. It's becoming actually the social distance that they have started maintaining. Parents have brought the children into such a mode that no child is ready to sit on the same seat where his or her classmate was. So to bring the children back to the natural environment, to train these young minds once again, making them sociable, I think it's very important to check how strong the teacher at the emotional quotient is. If the teacher herself is stressed out, not emotionally balanced, not at peace, probably this is the era, this is the time. We can not only talk about the learning gaps, the kind of gaps these children have faced, throughout 1.5 years in the distress. With we were somehow putting the mask coming out, the children were not allowed to do so even. So I think I'm looking for a teacher who is very strong at emotional this thing, because there had been times when we had to call up the parents, we had to call up the child and do the grievance redressal if someone has lost his or her parent. So I think the teacher needs to be the strongest person and educator has to be. If we want these children to be emotionally stable, that's what I'm looking for. And also with the CUCET coming in, a CUCET coming in which talks about that the board examinations won't matter. It's only they are going to focus on the common interest test, which would include like papers on the language 1, language 2, command over the language. And in the 4th segment, it's talking about more on the verbal reasoning, logical thinking, and aptitude tests. So I think the teacher who is little more focused towards the holistic development of the children in the school. So teachers mean a bit of multitasker for me, who can sing with the children, who can dance with the children, who can do role play, and who can laugh, and who can really give a shoulder to cry if a child needs to stay. So for me, a teacher has to be. Earlier, it was like it came into a very negative connotation, like jack of all, master of none. But today, I, as an individual, see jack of all, master of none into a very, very positive way. I don't need to do a mastery over one subject. I'm very master in psychology. I need to be knowing this world, face this future that's coming now.
If a teacher, Mr. Roy, I would like to add on to that. If a teacher has a learning attitude, I think that kind of teacher can be appointed. With connectivity, with digital literacy, a basic digital literacy is required, because we cannot teach a teacher how to hold a mouse now at this point of time.
No.
The technology basics with the skills along with it, and who is a learning leader, who has good reading capabilities, I think we can appoint, and everybody needs to be groomed. We don't get any ready-made teacher from anywhere.
That's what I said, ma'am. The way we were teaching in the offline mode, we were checking the content, the vocabulary, the expression, but along with it, we are taking online classes, the use of edtech tools and everything. And one thing I would take from your conversation, very important, if a teacher, even if little is not at the top of the subject, but has got the right attitude to learn, I will appoint her. I will not appoint an excellent teacher who has got a
bad attitude. Yes,
I know everything. I will never take that one.
Yes, learning attitude should be. The learning ladder has only to rise. Yes. The learning is always a ladder. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Dr. Tyagi, if I may come to you next. We have spoken about the requirements of teachers. We have tried to look at what schools might look at. and you have said you don't want to predict. So ma'am, let's leave aside what has happened in 5 years. Let's push ahead 25 years. You definitely have more than that in terms of experience. We are going to recommend, we are still talking about how screen time is an issue. Do you see screens being there at all? Do you foresee digital education taking some entirely new form?
I think your question is really relevant, and you want me to say that we can predict the future, but somehow I'm really not very sure if we can predict the future. First thing, but still we can think of something that what will happen, like whatever changes are taking place now, as madam, both of them, they were talking of how to select the good teachers. So for that, they were talking about some ethics and integrity and their skills and all those things. But at the same time, nowadays, last week, I was with Mr. Pramod Mahajan from UAE, and we were selecting the teachers for one school. So first of all, we had given them one questionnaire, and from there, we could find out what is their knowledge. I mean, with options. It is not that describe it or write it. And then psychometric test. So my, alumni, Mishra ma'am, I've done my BSc from BHU, and especially from Women's College. She has told that. So hello, Anupama ji, I'm also an alumni of BHU. Okay, what I'm telling that these psychometric tests are very important, because madam was talking about the emotional quotient of the teacher. And I think it is very important that how to handle the children. Now the inclusive education has come and so many things have come. So the psychometric test is important, and not only for teachers, I say. My son is working with a climate change company like Tata's and all that, and he asked me today, Mummy, if you can give me some psychometric knowledge to me, because I have to design that psychometric questions. So that way, what I'm saying, that this is how we can select the teachers. But the best thing for a teacher is going to be, if he's happy and if he can mix well with others, and he has got those skills or not. It is not much of the knowledge, because now the teaching pedagogies have changed so much. And I remember one takeaway from, the Sahodaya conference at Gwalior. Okay, so that was the story was told, that an old man is, trying to take a shelter in some of the houses in a village. But everybody said, no, you cannot, you are not allowed in the house. And it was a very cold night. Then he just sat in a corner. Then after some time, he heard, that the horse is coming. So on the horse, he had seen one lady was riding, and she had come there only where he was sitting. As soon as she landed there, then everybody came out of their houses in the night, and the environment became so good, and she was telling them the stories. So everybody was very happy, everybody listened. And then she said, okay, now stories are over. And then everybody had gone back into their houses. Then this old man, he said, आप बताइए आप कौन हैं? जब आपको सबने देखा तो सब लोग आ गए, और जब मैंने दरवाजे खटखटाए तो मुझे किसी ने भी नहीं सुना. Then she said, अरे मैं तो कहानी हूँ. अरे कहानी को तो हर कोई पसंद करता है, आप कौन हैं? Then the old man replied, मैं भी आपकी तरह कुछ हूँ, मैं ज्ञान हूँ, लेकिन कोई मुझे ग्रहण ही नहीं करना चाहता है. Then story said, don't worry, आप मेरे साथ आइए, और कहानी और ज्ञान दोनों साथ जाएंगे तो बच्चों और सब लोग आपको वेलकम करेंगे. So this is what I want to say, that we should use these interesting pedagogies, story pedagogies, the creative pedagogy. And Anupama ma'am, she said that sports, of course, the sports have become very important, and sports teacher is very, very important, I'll say. Sahodaya, we were having a training on creative pedagogies. So all the teachers we have taken to the sports ground, and then they were taught that how we can ride the cycle. It is a multidisciplinary project. So the physics we can teach to them, and aerodynamics we can teach to them, and the chemistry we can teach to them. And then they were asked to play the cricket game, and in the cricket, physics can be taught to them, because how much momentum the bowling is done and all that, and the biology can be taught, the muscles, that how much force and all that. So sports has also become very good, and that way the teachers and the students, they should have this type of teaching learning, as Modi ji has told. So we have to train our teachers, and as per the NEP 2020, as all of you know, that we should have 50 hours of the trainings. So this is what we are going to teach them, and we are going to make them future ready. And now the question which Shubhayu is asking me, the predict. See, it will not be 360 degrees turn, but it will be going on slowly in these 10 years and maybe 25 years, and the teachers will become facilitators. And so much of digital education and things will be with us, that we will be able to do anything. So the books will be there or not, I'm not sure, but things will change. We'll have loops in there, as I have told you, and the remote things will be doing that. So lots of changes. If you say in the education, it will definitely be there, and new gadgets will come. And I don't know if in future the people will be talking through their brains. They will be reading each other's thoughts. That might happen by using some instrument. As Madam said, that the students, in the Facebook, such things like wedding preparations and all that. So that reading each other's mind and the body language, and it can be anything, but we'll have to teach the children that they should have good uses of that, because with press a button away, the whole world can be destroyed if it is atomic energy or something. So we have to teach them ethics and integrity, that how to use it. And the screen time, of course, is very important, but in future, so many, I imagine the doctors will be there, and so many, you can say medicines will be there, or maybe some screens will be there, so that even if they are working on this computer, for many hours, nothing will happen to them. So all the new things which we can only imagine will happen. But let's hope that it will be for good, because the teachers are warriors, and educationists, they were, I will not say next to doctors, like doctors were first. No, teachers were like, doctors only, the frontliners, and they are the social workers, and they are the people who change the world. The world, the people. So globalization and everything depends upon the teachers and educators. So we should do our best. And all of us are, even Shubhayu and this company, this is doing such a great service, because I'm connected to Notebook for last 2 years, and how much work they are doing. I want to thank them, and I want to congratulate them. Thank you very much, Shubhayu.
Mr. Roy, I would like to add on something like this to that. Maybe are we talking about metaverse, which is going to come into digital notebook category, or digital metaverse? Recently, I've been hearing, I've gone through 1 or 2 videos wherein along with the 2Ds and 3Ds, we make them feel the presence also. Maybe that's one thing which might come up later on. If you all can prevent, the innovation can only happen with divergent learning. When we have divergent ways of thinking, I think it might happen anytime. Just as we haven't imagined a COVID, and then we have a vaccination for that also. When we have a webinar like this, maybe we'll all be sitting virtually in one room or something like that. I'm just wondering how it would be, because we're all people from the domain field, For us, IT is something new. Still, we are trying to figure out the question which we have given them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. We have pretty much run out of time, so this is where I get to sum up. First of all, thank you all so much for sparing the time to do this. I know it would not have been difficult, would have been very difficult at this point in time. And thank you so much for doing this. First of all, Barrett sir, I think your strategy of going ground up, taking care of the bottom of the pyramid first and then building on that, because the people at the top are already doing things and headed in a particular direction, and aligning the rest of the pyramid to that direction, I think is a beautiful strategy in and of itself. Dr. Padmavati, thank you so much for bringing the teachers again in the focus. As we keep saying, the teacher is the most irreplaceable part of the entire process. And whatever else happens, be it technology, digital, and every single form, goes to enable that one single person's thoughts, beliefs, values being transferred to a group of young individuals. Dr. Mishra, thank you so much for being here. Ma'am, you brought in some really, really relevant points, particularly the way you were looking at teacher selection at this point in time, where, all of you spoke about this. The teacher's digital literacy is a factor, but cannot be the driving factor. Dr. Tyagi, once again, thank you so much, ma'am. I don't know how much more I can thank you. Ma'am has been an absolute pillar of strength. And every time we get stuck on something that's education related, we need to fall back on the experience of educationists. It's Mr. Barrett and Dr. Tyagi who's always there to guide us through. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Shubhayu. Thank you for calling us on this platform.
I'm the privilege.
I really cherish being here with the learned colleagues and listening to them and talking to them. Though little at an awkward time because I have left for home. I'm in the vehicle also. Probably you can see.
Yes, ma'am.
But it was fun being here and a lot of learning, a lot of eye-openers, because if I missed out something, Mrs. Tyagi was there to support me. Padmavati ma'am was there to support me.
Anupama, आप women's college में पढ़े हैं क्या?
Yes, ma'am. I have done my graduation from there, and then I went to Faculty of Arts, English department.
Oh, getting connected.
Yes.
I was at women's college for 3-4 years.
Okay. Ma'am, what was the year?
It was, that time the age was not important. So
No. Year. Which year? Which session? Year?
That was around 75, 76.
Oh, no. So I was there in 1992 around.
I can understand that.
And where we had our good teachers, very fantastic, this thing.
Yeah.
I got married quite early in class 9. So, I had to complete all my education from my in-laws' place. So from class 12, and then after that, I did all my education from BHU itself.
Yeah, I've done my graduation at the age of 16 from there, because the age was not important that time, but it was a wonderful place, I should say. Thank you, Shubhayu, that we are meeting here.
We love making these connections. We are privileged.
It's becoming alumni meet of BHU, don't worry.
Yes.
Okay, please. We'll be there.
But here's been my takeaway today is what I am learning. And we had planned this topic around digital education. We thought we'll get ideas about how screens would look or how mobiles could become embedded in your brain. But what I'm understanding is we can go digital as much as we want.
Yeah.
Education system is going to remain primarily human. It's back to human values, integrity, attitude, ability to learn, and taking care of people at the bottom. I think that
Exactly.
encapsulates where we are headed in our education system. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a privilege to have all of you here.
Pleasure is mine.
There is a quote, Shubhayu, I would just tell at the end. Yesterday only I was quoting to some teachers. मुझे वहम था कि मैं अहम था. But in fact, मुझे वहम नहीं था कि मैं अहम था. We all are important as a human being in a child's life as a teacher.
Very nice.
Thank you so much. To all of you who have been with us, thank you so much for being with us here today. It's been an absolute privilege, presenting their thoughts to you. Wishing you a very happy Gudi Parva if you are around Maharashtra. Wishing you a very happy Ugadi if you are in the relevant states. Well, we shall see you soon on our next episode. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and goodbye.
Thank you and
Mr.
Jai
Roy.
Hind. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Shubhayu. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.